it. I'm going to try my best. Hello, and thank you all for being here today to celebrate the well-lived life of my grandmother, Viola Belford Cooper White. For those of you who may not know me, I'm her granddaughter, Tegan. Though, if she were here right now, she would have picked out an outfit full of sparkles for me to wear and told me to introduce myself as something a tad fancier, such as the stage name that she had given me, Sparkling Tegan for the holidays. So let me just add something really quickly. My grandmother was born on June 28, 1926, in Toronto, Canada, to Norman W. Cooper and Bessie Merle Dobbin Cooper. She was the eldest of 4 children, Billy Cooper, June Lorraine Cooper Johnston, and Norman Frederick Cooper. After first grade, Vi and her family moved to Rochester in 1930, where her father opened Cooper's Delicatessen and gas station on the corner of Dewey Avenue and Barnard Street, right here in Greece. Viola attended Barnard Elementary School and then was a proud graduate of Nazareth Academy for high school. I'm sure many of you know that Viola was an avid storyteller, a trait she most definitely passed on to her children and grandchildren. She had many fond memories of her childhood and really of her entire life. When I sat down to write all of this, my mother, Renee, gave me a book to reference. Viola had written it for my mother quite some time ago. It's full of stories, memories, family history, and intricate fine details, such as the exact measurement in centimeters of my large head when I was born. And cute, funny quotes like this one that my cousin Paige said on March 7th of 1995. Nanny, I'm faster than a tulip blowing in the wind. I went down a rabbit hole reading this book for hours with amazement of the details and messages woven throughout these anecdotes. In fact, I found myself a mess, with a constant stream of tears running down my face and a couch covered in tissues. And I realized my grandma is probably looking down, grinning cheek to cheek. Crying was one of her favorite things. She loved to cry. She loved people crying together, and she loved making people cry, which was most definitely her intention when she wrote the damn book. But really, the book is the essence of her life. She wrote a great story throughout 98 years. She filled her days with imagination, creativity, family, and love. In fact, she would tell you she lived the greatest love story of all. She met my grandfather, Eugene White, when she was 13 years old and he was 16. On that day, she met him and she went home promptly to tell her mother she had met the boy she would marry. And she did just that. In 1949, they got married and welcomed 3 baby girls in the years to follow: Pam, Renee, and Tracy. She was incredibly proud of her daughters. She passed her creativity, love of nature, strength, and imagination onto each of them. I think I can speak for my sister Bailey and each of my cousins, Ashley, Camden, Paige, and Peyton, when I say that our grandmother, along with each of our mothers, crafted a beautiful childhood for us all combined. If you sat down to have a conversation with my grandmother, she would undoubtedly have told you stories about her daughters and grandchildren and their many accomplishments. Our grandparents were one of a kind, each of them individually creative, imaginative, and witty, but complementary towards each other, always having fun. Their house was always welcoming and special. My grandmother would host tea parties for us, make us ginger ale floats, and my grandfather would take us on his long walks around the neighborhood. Each day in the late afternoon, Vi and Jean would fix themselves a drink, most oftentimes a martini. I can remember them sitting down to chat with their friends, to chat with drinks, talking about life, what was in the newspaper, or catching up on family happenings. We all know that this was one of my grandmother's favorite parts of life, martini time. She looked forward to it every day, a chance to slow down and sip in all the moments of life. After my grandfather passed away, she would say that Eugene told her to have a cocktail each day and to think of him. And she did, each day. Though sometimes she didn't wait until the later afternoon. My grandmother loved her garden and all things flowers. When we were little, her house was on the garden tour. She was the director of her garden club, and each grandchild was that was born was assigned a flower of which she would sew or incorporate onto every handmade gift she would give us. One of the flowers she referenced and loved most in life was the forget-me-not. What a metaphor for this celebration. Viola was a cancer survivor, not once but twice. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in the late 80s and then again with ovarian cancer several years later. She was a proud survivor. Of all the happy moments she talked about, this was undoubtedly a scary time for her. I found a passage in her book where she wrote, "It has been 5 years come this December since my operation in 1986. I'd love to live to enjoy my wonderful family." And she did. 98 years. Holy cow. What a run and what a life. Our grandmother made an impression on most that she met, a true forget-me-not. Much like her, I enjoy telling stories. As I've been reflecting and reminiscing on her life and character during the last few days, I find myself remembering the happy and truly hilarious moments that she left us with. These are my favorite. Though it might be slightly inappropriate, I'm sorry, Deegan, I can't help but share this story with you today. Several years ago, we were all gathered around my grandmother's dinner table, using the special set of gold-painted dishes with the camel on them. So it was likely Christmas. She sat down to dinner, reminding us all not to use our knives in the wrong place by saying, "Don't cut on the camel." Viola started telling us of a friend of hers who had recently passed away from an unknown cause. She turned to us all, having a serious inflection in her voice, and with the intention of using a very different word, she confidently said, "When I die, have an orgy." She quickly corrected herself amidst our choking and laughing on our first bites of food and said, "I meant autopsy." Never fear, we are respecting many of her last requests, but that will certainly not be one of them. I want to acknowledge and say thank you to my mother Renee and my Aunt Tracy for taking care of Viola in her last days. Your grace and patience have been evident. I am sure she is somewhere up above, proudly telling everyone about the dedication you both have shown her. On behalf of me and my family, I would like to thank you all for being here today. Please think of my grandmother often and share her stories. She wouldn't want it any other way. I will leave you with a poem that Viola wrote in her book. Can it be that this is me, when only I feel 23? The years that passed have gone so fast. If only youth could wait and last. Mistakes it makes, and years it takes, to realize how very wise we were when we were young. Hang on to youth as you grow old, and don't say that you were never told.
Amen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Paige. I'm Viola's granddaughter, and I am here not with my own words, but with the words of someone who couldn't be here this morning, two people. In fact, Vi and Jean's neighbors from a long time ago, Bert and Kathy Bowie. So these reflections were sent by their longtime friends, Bert and Kathy, who were disappointed to not be here this morning. Mother Nature regrettably decided to create some serious flying conditions, so they weren't able to make it in. So these are Bert and Kathy's words. We were fortunate to be Vi and Jean's next door neighbors on Eileen Drive for 29 years and have continued our friendship for 21 more years with visits and frequent calls. Throughout this time, we were treated like family, shared a variety of experiences, and supported each other during difficult times. We were so close that Vi almost didn't forgive us for deciding to move to North Carolina in 2003. In fact, we enlisted Renee and Bob as backup, maybe protection, as when telling her. However, the Whites did drive down for an enjoyable visit and all was back to normal. On Vi's 98th birthday, and several weeks ago, we had lengthy phone conversations that will be fondly remembered. We will always appreciate Vi's wonderful personality, full sense of humor, generosity, creativity, painting, writing, sewing, decorating, and their home filled with so many wonderful treasures, gardening and floral arranging, including all of the work for her local garden clubs, Federated Garden Clubs of New York State, and the Grace Historical Society. She was also always up for adventures, such as when Bert rented a 34-foot cherry picker to paint our 2-story house, and she and Jean went up for a maximum height ride in the backyard. When they came along on our sunfish for a sail on Cuca Lake, which was a riot if you can picture 4 people in such a small boat. After Vi slipped in the launch area up to her neck in water, she couldn't stop laughing. She was a gracious hostess, thoughtful friend, devoted wife, loving mother, and a great-great-grandmother to Layla, which she's thrilled about. Really, Vi was an exemplary, one-of-a-kind role model for enjoying life. Her exemplary care was provided for years by Renee, Bob, Tracy, and family, and she felt very fortunate and extremely grateful for them. We will miss our special friend of 50 years and cherish all memories. Our heartfelt condolences and love go to the whole extended White family, Kathy and Bert. Okay, I also have a poem to read today. This is called The Dash by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of her birth and spoke of the following dates with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For the dash represents all the time that she spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved her will know what little time that line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger, and show more appreciation, and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect, and more often wear a smile, and remember that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, and your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say, and how you spent your dash? Thank you.